We have a dog show in 2 weeks, so let's prep this coat. I always start out with fully brushing out or combing out the coat so I can see exactly how it's laying. I always back comb the legs to see how the length is looking because I know I'm gonna have to pull some of this down today. These are my tried and trues. I'm just gonna start on her legs, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back comb, like I said, and I'm just gonna pull all of the longest hairs, but not everything. And I do have to back comb this quite a few times to make sure that I'm not pulling too much, because as I pull, some of the hairs go back down. I'm just pulling everything that's sticking out. And it's not very much, as you can see, it's not very much, but I am just going through and I'm trying to be pretty meticulous about it because I don't want to pull any spots too much. So I just try to compare to see how much I've pulled from one side to another. And you also want to make sure when you're pulling that whatever you pull is pulling to make the leg look straight, because if you pull a little bit here and you leave more here, it's going to look more like the leg has more angle to it than it should. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're pulling in straight lines. I'm liking how this looks. It's pretty cylindrical all the time, if that makes sense. So it just looks like one pretty straight column from the top here down to the ankle. And I'm just gonna do the same on the other side here. She did have a shave spot here where she had a procedure a few months ago. So this is still growing back right here, but it's not looking too bad. I'm liking how this is looking. This spot here is almost completely blended now, which is great. Back comb both sides, make sure they look pretty even. To me, that looks pretty good. So I do still have another week. I'm gonna let this grow for a week and then I'll have another week after that to correct any final spots. And I do just kind of come through here and just finger pluck any areas that I notice there's a couple more hairs. But this is her legs currently. And I like how that looks, so I'm gonna move on. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the chest next, and I kind of imagine this piece as like a triangle from the back of the ear to the back of the elbow, and then diagonally down to the forechest. So I just go here and here with my flat work, which not everyone does. A lot of people keep their flat work in here on the chest and let this be a little bit longer, but I feel that this accentuates the front more. So I just pull this down a little tighter and then down through this section. I'm always going through and combing just to see how everything's laying. I always want to, it's essentially check my work, make sure I'm not pulling too much or too little in a certain area. And especially with the show being only 2 weeks away, I definitely don't want to pull too much. She would get a good layer in that amount of time just based on how her coat grows, but I don't want it to be too tight. I just kind of want to maintain exactly what we have right now, which obviously in order to keep it this short, it has to be pulled a little bit shorter so it can grow back. So I'm just going back and forth with my this wedge stone and then this Mars comb. No, this is a knife. Mars knife. This one is gonna pull a little bit more, and this one is gonna like more so blend any harsh lines. This is also the knife that I use on jacket work back here because it does not pull as much as this one does. This one's pretty foolproof, I would say. It's pretty hard to pull a hole with this knife. And it's not gonna be like a drastic difference here because like I said, I'm not pulling too much. I'm pulling just enough for it to maintain in 2 weeks. But I will groom again next week, so I am just pulling enough to keep it at this point. I've mentioned this before in other videos, but when you are hand stripping, you always want to pull in the direction that the hair is growing. So this hair is growing this way, this hair grows down this way, and this hair grows up. So this is kind of like a triangle area where I am pulling the skin taut here, and I'm pulling these hairs directly down the way that they grow, and then I'm taking these back the opposite way, because this is kind of like a little cowlick area. And then these hairs up under the beard grow up towards the ear, so these would also be pulled this direction. I'm just gonna pull a little bit more right here to highlight the front and the shoulder area. I do like this area to be pretty tight. And then if you can see here, because I pulled this area down a little bit, there is a bit of a line right here, so I'm just gonna blend this line. And I'm not pulling much when I pull that. It's a very small amount of hair that I'm pulling. It just is a lot of flicking motion to get what I need. So this is a lot less of a line now. It's a lot smoother through here. So I'm just gonna move to this middle section right here and just pull this down kind of in a V from here, like that. I just hold her chin up with my thumb here so that I can see, and then I use my finger back here to hold the skin taut. So it's just here and back here. If you can see this little line right here, I'm just gonna work on blending that right here and pulling this all up here just a little bit tighter. So I just try to pull this down right here so you can see the difference. This is all gonna be pretty much exactly like this by the time we are showing. And now I'm just gonna do this again on this side. And I just wanted to show you guys really quick. I believe that this is an example of a dog with a nice front, because this is not hair right here. This is actually the forechest down to the front of the bone. So you can see here that this front actually follows what you can see. And then she has a nice angle here where you can kind of see that angle goes right like that. And so I try to accentuate that with my groom style, which is why I go through this angle here and then down directly here, because that highlights that she does have a nice front. So here we have both sides pretty much matching. I just pulled this side down to match what we did over here. This is how it looks, and it will look pretty much exactly like this, but fully filled in with color in the 2 weeks when we are showing. But as far as the front goes, this is what I like to do. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to her head. This is how she's looking currently. I personally think this is really cute, but I wanna get rid of whatever is happening right here. And I'm just gonna take a layer down on her head so that it's ready in 2 weeks, and then just shape the beard a little bit. I'm just gonna back comb this area forward so that I can see how much needs to come off over here to get rid of this little cowlick spot. Yeah, you can already see the difference here, where this side is sticking out and this side is a lot more smooth and tight, which I prefer. Get rid of this little spot on the other side. That looks much more better. That side. And then I'm just gonna take this a little bit tighter all over, just to make sure that it looks about like this in 2 weeks. I really love her eyelashes, but I feel like they do drag her eye down a little bit. I can't part with them. We're keeping eyelashes, I can't part with them, they're too cute. And I do pull all the way up to just above the eyelid here. She tolerates a lot. You're a good girl. She's a good girl, I know. I am just gonna get in here and pull this eyebrow back and just get right in here. I'm just gonna do this on the other side over here. She's just looking so cutie. This is how this looks. Like I said, I just pulled a layer down, so there's just a little bit less hair there overall. And then now I'm gonna move on to the jacket work, which is like down her back. Her jacket already looks really good. I really love how rich her coat is. Like, this is all completely natural color, which is really, I love this color. I think this is so beautiful. I'm just gonna, like I said, and like I did pretty much everywhere else, is just try to pull a layer down here, kind of just maintain where we're at. Some undercoat. You can tell she's well fed. And I'm not totally going willy-nilly here with this grooming that I'm doing, as I can see it a little bit better than the camera sees it, but there are some hairs that if I comb them to the side, they are a little longer, and so I can see them with being closer than the camera is currently. But I'm trying to just pull as many of the longest hairs as I can. But this is what a rolled jacket looks like. So there's about 5 or 6 layers here that are just constantly growing because I'm constantly pulling. So I pull her jacket about probably every week or so. So there's about 6 weeks worth of hair growth at all different stages, which is why there's some very short hair, some hair that's long, ready to come out. And so that's how I keep her coat rolled. This is not gonna look like there's gonna be a huge difference, just because, like I said, there's not a ton of coat to pull off here. Like, it accumulates, but I'm not staging this and I'm not pulling it down basically to undercoat. I'm just pulling off enough for it to look the same as this next week. As you can see, she's completely unbothered, very used to this process. This is not painful for the dogs when it's done correctly. So this is not a painful experience for her at all. That's a common misconception with hand stripping, is that it is painful and uncomfortable for the animal. But when they have a correct wire coat like this is actually the correct way that they should be groomed. Usually if they are clippered or shaved, it's fine. But if they do have a correct coat, it is more preferred that they do be groomed in this way. But it is up to owner discretion, because this is obviously a lot more work. And they would need to be seen by a groomer more frequently. And it is also more expensive because this is all done by hand. There's no machine that can do this like a clipper can. But that is the only way to get the coat to look like this, is to hand strip. And I'm just going through with my comb and see if I see any noticeable spots. And when I'm grooming, for the most part, I let her sit or lay or do whatever she feels like she needs to do, because I do want this process to be as minimal as far as like her involvement as possible. So if she wants to lay down, cool. If she wants to sit, cool. Usually she just sits like this the whole time. Sometimes she'll lay down, but get your little roll on your bum. Look at that. That is looking pretty good. Like I said, it's not gonna look like a huge difference, but I'm just making room for new growth. I'm just gonna move on to her rear legs now. This is probably the hardest area for me to visualize what I need to take off, because I try to compare it to like some of my favorite grooms that I do see in the breed, and I have a very hard time recreating that with the rear legs, because they're not like supposed to technically have a skirt, but you do want a little bit of something to connect here. It's hard. This probably all should get taken off right here, but I don't know. We'll see what we come up with here. Right here, I'm gonna take down. I will say her legs are a little bit feral at the moment. I haven't done a lot here recently, which is probably not good for me, but it'll be fine. I just switched to a different Mars knife, which has like smaller close together teeth, so it does pull a lot more. So I don't want to take off everything, but I do want to take off a good bulk of this. I need to pull this in here pretty tight to show this angle on the back thigh. So all of this is going to have to go, and then I'm going to pull this tight here to show the angle back, and then this down, and then this will be down as well. But because I have not been working this area very much, I don't want to pull too much off because it will take longer for a layer to come in. So I'm just going to work it sparingly, if you will. This is kind of what we have going here. I pulled this part tight here and then here for that little angle. And then the rear flat work was pulled pretty tight. I think that this looks really cute, and I think that she looks feminine. Like you could tell that she's a girl with this specific groom. I think that it accentuates her better features. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any suggestions, if you groom show griffons or anything like that. I'd be interested to hear any feedback, and thanks for watching.